Mark will take us through as treasurer the sort of outline finances for the year in question. We'll then have a look at some of the confirmation of 2 board positions, and Adam will take us through that again. We'll have a short break at around about 11 o'clock, just so you can get sort of top up of teas and coffees, stretch your legs, get a comfort break, so that you're able to get to the end of the session. We'll be looking then having Angus join us from the club, just to give the club's view. Following on from Angus, we're going to have Ben Shires, who is the Future Trust president, is also going to interview John Richardson. So we'll have a bit of a chat with John Richardson. We'll then look at some of the sort of charity partnerships that we've had over the year. So clearly looking at things like the food banks, but our primary charity for this given year has been Andy's Man Club. So we'll be talking to representatives from both of those and outlining some of the processes that we've been through for them this year. Finally, we'll be looking at sort of a couple of president's speeches. So the Trust President, Simon Ricks, will give us his sort of thoughts on the year and where things are, but also then Ben Shires as well will do the same on behalf of the Future Trust. The very final thing we'll do is a wrap-up of any other business, and then Pete, the chair, will close the AGM for the year. So that's pretty much our agenda for today. I'm just going to basically cover the apologies. Thankfully, at this stage, we have no apologies from the board, so everybody is present and correct. We are expecting 1 or 2 individuals to join. So Ben Shires, as I said, for Angus, and John Richardson will be joining a little bit later on in the session. But for now, they, kind of are just sort of doing whatever they're doing in the world and joining us shortly. So they're not here at the moment, but they will be with us in a bit. I'm going to hand over then, I think, to Pete. To Pete and Adam to sort of cover off the matters arising from 2019. So if I just make sure that Pete is the one on video camera, okay. I'm just going to check the chat, make sure I've got everything in that way. That's fine. And I'm just going to stop sharing the screen. So it's over to you, Pete, for matters arising.
Morning, everybody. Thankfully, looking through the minutes and going through the notes of last year's, we had no matters arising. So it's quite a quick one, really, to move through. Adam, I don't know if you have any further comments, but
just a couple of things, I guess. We voted in new rules last year, and they've now been submitted to the FCA. So that's all complete now. We're just waiting on one more set of accounts, and then we're completely up to date with those.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so based on that, then we're pretty sort of straightforward in terms of being able to look at that. What we need to do is very quickly do a quick poll with everybody then, just to sort of check before we sort of do the poll to approve that sort of the 2019 minutes are closed. We'd like to do just a very, very quick poll just to test that it's working for you all. So I'm just going to launch a poll. You should see a poll come up on your screen that allows you to sort of vote as you would hopefully about whether, if you get the opportunity, would you apply for a ticket balance at the current time. So if you just want to vote on your screens, okay, just so that we can test that basically people are able to vote, in that sense. The minutes, we will sort of do a quick test now, then we'll also do a proper vote on the actual AGM minutes in that sense in just a moment. So I can see that there's just 1 or 2 that haven't quite voted yet, but we've got about 84% of those eligible for this vote who voted. So a couple more just doing their final votes. And we'll sort of end the poll and share the results. Given the conversation we had with Angus the last week, Angus was expecting that it would be quite a large number of perhaps season tickets, etc., who wouldn't apply for a ballot. So it'd be interesting to see, kind of where we sit in that sense. So given we're about 92% of those eligible to vote this morning. I'm going to end that and share the results. So you should now be able to see the results of those that actually kind of the vast majority would indeed apply for a ballot. So that was our sort of just test poll for you. I'm now going to move on and give you the poll, just if we can, given that the matters arising have been shared by Adam and Pete. The vote now is, do we affirm that the minutes for the 2019 AGM can be approved and put into record? If you can just vote for us on this, that'd be really great. Thank you. Okay. Lovely stuff. Well, we've got basically the same number again. So once again, that as a process has been passed unanimously, and we can sort of move on from that particular poll. So in terms of the welcome, I'm going to hand over now to Pete to basically do the welcome for the session. And I think then from the welcome, Pete, if you want to move on to the chair's address, and if you let me know when you're ready for the video piece that we've got prepared.
That's fine. So yes, morning everybody. Many thanks for joining today in this first, I think, virtual Trust Zoom call AGM that we've had. It's been a bit of a tricky year for everybody, but also from a trust perspective, we have been working away, we have been continuing, so work has been going on in the background. But yeah, today we're all here. If there are any questions, you have a little chat box down in the bottom. So as we go through the speakers, if you'd like to raise any questions, please pop them into there. Graham will then, as and when, have them raised with the speaker, or alternatively, we'll let you know if we then need to answer those subsequently after the AGM. But I'm delighted that you all can join us. I'm really delighted with the agenda today. I think we've got some fantastic speakers with Simon, Ben, John Richardson, Angus, plus people from Andy's Man's Club and the Food Bank as well, just to give you a flavour of what we've been doing this year. So, you know, the AGMs have been becoming something over the last sort of 3 or 4 years where we've had really good guest speakers, and I'm glad we can continue that this year. So if there are any issues, again, pop them into your chat box and Graham can pick those up. But you know, welcome to this year, and many thanks for joining us. So I'm going to go into my chair's address now. What I'd like to do is sort of share with you where we were at the beginning of the year. So taking you back, and a lot of the attendees here were with us in the AGM of 2019, is take us back to the start of the year and what did we do before COVID hit and everything changed. So right at the start of the year, we set our objectives that we publish on the website, and that really is to make sure that we're held to account on what we're doing as a trust and making sure that we really do deliver. So we broke that down into 5 segments: one of campaigning, fan engagement, club engagement, legacy and heritage, and future trust and community. So in the campaigning piece, we really were wanting to campaign for fair ticket pricing for away fans. We were also then looking at safe standing. So I'll come on to these and what we've done shortly. In the fan engagement, it was really, this year we needed to reset ourselves a little bit. We found ourselves knowing we needed to do a bit of background work in you know, back of house with our website, with our membership database, and also looking at membership benefits. So we've been working on how we handle our members, and you have all received an email the last couple of days saying we're moving to a new membership database, which will make us far more efficient, easier for you to rejoin or continue membership, easier for you to share, to get people to join us. We've also had JIP looking at membership benefits, so trying to work with businesses and get new businesses to come on board to give you as a member, you know, benefits for being part of the trust. Josh has been working tirelessly on a new website, which we launched yesterday, but I'll come on to that. And obviously then the Paul Madeley Player of the Year award is still continuing strong, which is great. On the club engagement, really it's been working with Angus and James and Katie and a number of other people around the club just to ensure that we're really part of the decision process. And we'll touch on some of the statements that we've made later on in the process. From a legacy and heritage, something that's been close to Kev on the board, but all of us as well, is Jack Charlton. So before Jack sadly passed away, Kevin was working on recognising Jack's achievements, and we've been doing things in the background there. So I'll touch on those shortly. And then we've got Future Trust in the community. So commemorative artwork, a Future Trust board, and also our Charity of the Year. So I think what I'll do now is I'll just roll a video which will show you some of our successes from this year, and then I'll pick out a few ones to speak about as well. So Graham, if you can just roll that for me. Okay, thanks, Graham. So there, I was just trying to cover off some of the things that we've done this year, and really at the start of the year, we were just finishing off the centenary event, which I hope you all really enjoyed. We much enjoyed putting it together. As stressful as it was, we thought it was a fitting way to celebrate the centenary. We then headed into January. We set our objectives, and then all of a sudden, COVID hit, and we entered into discussions with the club quite quickly, where they were quite concerned about giving the EFL any reason to keep us in the league. So we set about looking at a stay away campaign, which then sadly gained a huge amount of traction due to Norman's passing. And what was brilliant for us was to be able to link in with all of the other supporters groups, and then to link in with friends of ours to actually give us some video content to then be able to give a real campaign to stay away. And I'm massively delighted that all of the fans did so. And I know from conversations with Angus that actually the campaign was raised at the EFL level to say what a great job Leeds had done in controlling and managing that situation, protecting the players, protecting the NHS. So I thought that was a really great piece that everybody got behind. So thank you to all of our friends that contributed within that as well. Lots of our HMs contributed, which was wonderful. We had an incident then, which was Busgate. So we were a little bit disappointed with the bus at the trust, and we released quite a strongly worded statement to that effect, based upon all of your feedback, to be perfectly honest. And what's wonderful about the trust relationship with the club is we can not always see eye to eye, but we'll always remain in dialogue. And it was an interesting time for Graham, myself, Angus, where we were having good discussions around that. Some tough discussions, but good discussions nevertheless. And pleasingly, our relationship is stronger still from the bus gate. But we're hoping that something will be done to recognise that a lot of us missed out on a moment that we've been dreaming for 16 years because we'd followed advice. And the club thought they were doing the right thing, but I think yeah, we had a differing of opinion there. So moving on, we then started to look at the website and the membership database. So Josh, I need to shout out to Josh Cawthorne, who's our tech guru. He's spent hundreds and hundreds of hours to give you a new website that is glitch free and hopefully going to be full of content. We've got writers coming on board to offer content. In the background to that, he's worked with Jill and Jip to bring in a new database. So I mentioned that earlier. So not very sexy, let's say, as an objective, but one that is absolutely fundamental to us running effectively as a trust. So I want to thank them personally, because that has been hours and hours and hours well spent to make sure that we're now set up for the next coming years to be the best trust that we can be. Please check out the website. It's class. It's really amazing. So please check that out. And then in there, we've also got a merchandise section. So we've all got our new trust hoodies as part of the new website. Josh has been rebranding us throughout the year. So you've seen the Lust, you've seen the Together We're Stronger, the Leeds United Supporters Trust, the blue, the yellow, the white is all part of our rebranding. So we hope you like it. We're moving back to the more of the activism roots of the trust with that branding. So please do check out the merchandise in the store for stocking fillers. And what we'll do is this weekend, we will check out who's joined us for the AGM. We'll pick out a winner and we'll contact you to receive a free piece of merchandise as well, just for being in attendance at the AGM. But please do go and check it out. There's some good stuff there. We've also got new badges, so I can show you a new badge. So these will be coming out to members on renewal packs when we have them, which is also a great thing. So I'm probably running a little bit over time. The one last thing that I want to finish on is the work that the team have done, especially Claire, with the mural. So we hope you really like the Pablo mural that we've managed to create at the Duck and Drake. Please go down and visit it. We know from Ma, Pablo's wife, he's thoroughly delighted, and we're thankful to capture that moment when I think we all thought, yep, this is it. We're going up now. So please go down and check that out. We are working on further murals for next year, and Claire's been doing a great job with some places in Pudsey where we're going to be honouring Jack, Norman and Trevor. So there'll be a really cool piece coming along there in the new year. So we continue to go forward. The board, I'd like to pass my thanks to them. It's been a tough year. They've worked really hard. Again, they're all volunteers. They're here for the members. And I'm ever so proud to be the chair of these guys and working with them. So I hope we've done you proud as members. Please let us know if we can do better. We always want to do better. But yeah, we're all looking forward to 2021. Thanks, Graham.
Cheers, Pete. So thank you to Pete for the chair's address. Our next thing that we're going to be looking at is going to be our option to go through the financial sort of situation for the year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up sort of financial information. I'm going to put Mark on to be able to talk as treasurer. So Mark, I'll just share that screen for you, and away you can go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Vice Chairman. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As Graham mentioned, my name is Mark Roberts. I'm the treasurer for the trust. Our accounts for the year ending the 30th of June this year have been checked and prepared by YTB and are ready for submission to the FSA following today's AGM. We have put together a number of bullet points, which I trust you can now see on your screen. Our main source of income is from yourselves, the members. Without you, we would not be able to achieve any of our objectives. So thank you for your support, and please, if you can encourage others to join, do so. We also had some success with the terrace on T-shirts, as you can see for the merchandise there on the income. which we are now expanding, as Pete, the chairman, touched on earlier, in our new website. The expenditure was slightly more than the income, leaving us with a deficit of £297 for the year. The main expenditure obviously being the centenary exhibition, which was hosted in the Merrion Centre, which for those who attended will agree was a huge success. The other two main expenditures being postage and the centenary badges. Finally, we had an opening balance of £5,508 and a closing balance of £3,751. Now, that's a deficit of 1757, not 297 as I previously stated. This is because, as most of you are aware, the food bank we support has been another huge success, and even more so in these difficult times. Just before the end of our financial year, they needed money urgently while awaiting the Just Giving funds to clear. We helped out with a loan of £1,460, which has been paid back, but was not paid back until July, which will be shown in next year's accounts. Now, this concludes my short presentation. There is a poll coming up on your screen shortly to accept this year's accounts. Thank you very much for your time and support. And back to you, Graham.
Thank you very much, Mark. I shall just bring up that sort of poll for people just to be able to see. So that's now visible on your screens. You should be able to see those. So just if there's any more final sort of votes to be made, we'll just wait on those 1 second, and then we'll look to close that poll. Okay, so with 88% of those eligible to vote we've now closed that poll, share the results. So as you can see, that has been once again unanimously agreed, and the outline financial report has been approved for the year. So over now then, I think, in terms of our next steps to look at Adam. So I'm going to basically invite Adam to come to back onto the microphone and just make sure that he's ready to go. And if we allow Adam to do that, Adam can take us through board member positions and kind of the acceptance of nominees.
Everyone. So yeah, first of all, just want to thank Billy and Jim from the Huddersfield Town Supporters Trust for volunteering on our election management group. They've been pretty good with us over the last few years, returning favours on chairing groups. So we will upload the full scrutineers report on the website for everyone to check over. But in short, there were 5 vacancies declared and only 2 nominations were received. And they were current co-opted board members Jill Ward and Dan Foster. So all that we need to do now is affirm their positions with a affirmative vote, and both will be voted on as full board members if that goes through. So Graham, can you bring up the poll, please? There's going to be 2 separate ones, one for Jill and one for Dan. So you just need to vote yes or no if you are happy to affirm those. So what I think we'll do is a record of all the votes will be kept in the back end of Zoom. So I'll pass those on to the EMG for final sign off. But if we can see the results in a second, Graham, I think it's safe to assume that both Jill and Dan will be voted on if they've both been affirmed.
Yeah, we're just waiting on just a final couple of votes, perhaps, and then we're there. Okay, so I'll end the poll. Share the results.
Okay, thanks, Graham. Yep, so that's both Jill and Dan have been accepted onto the Supporters Trust board. So, yep, congratulations, guys.
Okay. So that pretty much sort of means we're running nicely ahead of time as per usual. A fairly quick sort of piece on the the genuine things. So in effect, we are due to be joined shortly by by Angus. I'm just wondering whether at this particular stage, then, in order to make things run a little bit more smoothly, whether Simon, you may wish to consider doing your president's address at this point. If I just ask Simon to unmute and perhaps come on video and see whether Simon is in a position to do that. So I think basically Simon's perhaps just going to be delayed briefly. Oh, here we go. No, Simon is with us. So Simon, have we caught you on the move at this particular moment?
Yeah, but I can just, if I have 1 minute, I can just sit down and then.
Lovely stuff.
And it's probably going to keep you ahead of time, though, to be honest.
No, that's all right. Look, it just sort of gets us a little bit closer to our sort of agreed break point, and when we'll be joined by sort of our additional guests.
Sorry, it was announced to me that I had to take someone somewhere at this point. Okay, so I had to actually text Pete last night to make sure that it was only a year since I became the president, because it just has been such a crazy year. It seems like about 600 or 700 years ago that I became the president. It's been a great year. I've enjoyed what we've done together. I think what Pete was talking about earlier is a very impressive body of work that's been done by the Trust. Particularly proud of the masses of money that we've raised for the food bank with the pay-per-view campaign. That was great. Sorry, a little unprepared. I think the club, the Trust has also, as Pete was saying, really proved itself with the communication. I think sometimes the club's communication can be a little not brilliant. I think the Trust has, so sort of proved to be a really good partner with the Stay Away campaign, as Pete was saying, and also I think the strong response to Busgate was excellent, really, and just proving that, giving the fans a voice, because I think there were a lot of people, me included, who were very disappointed with how that went down, especially because we'd done the Stay Away campaign as a sort of partnership, and then suddenly it felt a little bit like we'd been, don't know, betrayed is too strong a word, but it felt a little bit too like the communication just got lost at the vital moment. So I think the Trust, it's a good, strong response, and I'm glad we did that. And I think it just proves that the partnership just needs to keep getting stronger and stronger. What else did I want to say that was more positive? I think obviously we've all enjoyed the results on the pitch and going up and all that. I think that's been, the Leeds United has been one of the shining things this year that's kept us all going. So thank you to the club and the players and everyone for that. And I also just wanted to say that to a couple of things. One, I think, apart from what I just said about communication, I think the club's going in a great direction. I think when it got set up, the Trust, there was other owners who, there was a lot more stuff to do day to day, fighting fires. And I think that with Andrea and Angus and all the other people in charge feels a little bit more like it's in safe hands, and we can concentrate on doing other things like the food bank, like the other charity stuff that is getting done, and the safe standing and everything that the Trust's doing. That seems great. And finally, I know there was plans for celebrating Jack Charlton, and I think those continue, but I also just wanted to ask a question, which is not really part of the speech, is it? But it'd be really nice to do something for Eddie and Peter while they are still with us. I think that would be a great thing to do. And that is the end.
Thank you, Simon, and thank you for being sort of a little bit sort of flexible and jumping in at the super short notice into this sort of middle slot as just a bit of a filler. I think what we may well do at this particular stage is look to go to a bit of a question and answer. So I think if we sort of ask people, if you've got a question you'd like to ask, if you can add something into the chat, what we'll do is we'll pick that up, and we can probably bring you on to sort of unmute your microphone so that you'll be able to speak should you wish, or we'll basically take the question from the chat and use that in that sense. So if you can sort of either raise your hand, which is an option that you'll see sort of on your screen by going to sort of your options at the bottom. You should have reactions to be able to sort of raise your hand. In that sense, you can do that, or put something into chat for us by way of a question, and we'll be able to sort of look to address those as they come in. So we're going to open the floor at this stage. If anybody's got that, then we'll kind of deal with those questions. So question we do have. A question from Stuart, basically, have we spoken to the club regarding the retail arm? The website is very clunky still. Well, I can sort of happily sort of pick that up in terms of some of the discussions that we've had with the club during the sort of meetings that sort of Pete as chair and myself as vice chair we've had with Angus. We have talked about sort of some of the challenges around stock access, the fact that basically the website doesn't always run particularly. Josh, as our IT and sort of infrastructure manager, has directly sort of contacted around sort of data challenges that have been raised previously. So yes, it's something that has been raised. It's something that the club are aware of. They continue to look at different ways that they can do that. They have sort of said that ahead of the latest kit launch in September, or so the first kit launch in August, September time, they had increased their capacity for the servers massively. But ultimately, even then, the demand was so sort of heavy that it caused issues. On the wider sort of website piece, I think ultimately it's probably on a long list of things they need to do, but given the short turnaround of joining the Premier League this summer, where they had absolute requirements that they needed to meet very rapidly. Take, for example, the floodlights as one of the examples of that. They had so much to do, so little time, that I think, in all honesty, the website, whilst it feels like not the greatest customer experience, it's probably a little bit down their list, but it is definitely on the agenda, Stuart. So yes, it has been raised and mentioned. Any other questions?
Graham, we have a question from Michael Green, and Mike, thanks for joining. Great to see an ex chair joining as well. Just asking, what is our membership numbers like? So as I mentioned, I'd like to pick that up. As I mentioned previously, we've been doing a lot of infrastructure work this year because really of the poor database that we used to have. So we're currently at 480 members. However, that is fully paid up. We have got 776 in process of moving to the new database. So we expect them to be, within the system in the next week or two, latest. But purely because of the issues that we had with our old database, which was really not fit for longer term purposes, we're now transitioning everybody over. So we should be back up to where we would expect to be, just over 1,000, and then we'll be looking for Jill, now that she's on board, to be really driving and pushing our membership figures back up again to the numbers of thousands. The trouble and the difficulty is as Simon explained, is making sure and keeping ourselves extremely relevant with what we do, as now we seem to be in a lot more of a peaceful time than say the Cellino and Bates eras, where there was far more of the activism. There's still a lot to do with the club. There is definitely still a lot to do with the club, but I don't think we're facing the Cellino and Bates regimes, especially with the work that the club have been doing while Andrea and Angus have been at the helm. They're far more receptive to be working with us, which is ultimately what we want to do. So I hope that answers that.
Thank you, Pete. So we also have another question from Rob Whitehead. Do the club plan to open the pavilion on match days that have reduced capacity? Once again, I'll sort of pick that up, kind of having, and Pete can probably just confirm this. The discussions we've had with Angus and the club around kind of the reopening in limited sort of status, kind of once we get out of tier 3, everything is still very much up in the air. And I think ultimately the club's desire is for those who are able to come to make the matchday experience what it can be. They have genuine concerns about whether the opening of concessions will be possible and viable at that stage. For 2,000 people, I think that, I would be guessing, because it's not been confirmed, because the club haven't confirmed it. But the considerations will simply, can that space be operated safely and within sort of COVID restrictions? Can they basically make sure that it is staffed appropriately and financially viably? Because unlike many other clubs, and this sort of touches on what we put out in our last membership email post the discussion with Angus, that one of the challenges that we have as a club is that actually we don't outsource our match day services and our match day concession pieces. They're all done in-house. And that touched on why, in effect, living wage is a bit of a challenge for the club compared to, say, perhaps, a club that just uses Sodexo or a large provider to provide their match day, transient staff, if you like. So in that sense, we have a slight challenge that we could have the possibility where we have to take on responsibility for the safety of those individuals, as well as, if you like, the safety of any sort of paying fans that are coming to the match. So a bit of a long answer, but in short, we just don't know, Rob. At this stage, we will continue to be in dialogue with the club. We'll continue to sort of ask as we get closer to that point. So next week, we're due to get a revision potentially of the tier system on the, so we may know next week whether Leeds comes out of tier 3 and into tier 2, which would enable a 2,000 attendance, and from that point we'd then be looking at a potentially hopefully a reduction to tier 1 and 4,000. The other piece on this I think that's maybe relevant is that on the wider sort of ticketing piece, the club are hoping that by the end of the season, we will be able to potentially look at a much higher level of crowds, providing things like vaccination programs go well, that we, see a reduction in sort of cases, that actually there's a move by the government to seek to approve a return to a greater level of normality in attendance. So I think that's probably where we are on that at this stage. So I hope that kind of answers your question, Rob. So any more questions sort of that would like to be asked at this stage? Okay.
For Mark, Graham, there's one. Will the AGM be able to reviewed later? And Josh has just said, yes, it will be recording. So yes, Mark, you will be able to see later.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you for that, Pete, for jumping in. So just sort of comment from from Michael Green. Government may allow fans in tier 3, coincidentally, about the same time London goes tier 3. Interesting that, isn't it? That basically we get that sort of fairly London-centric approach, that, as London goes into tier 3, they'll still allow fans to potentially attend rather than them having to go through the same sort of restrictions that we've had. We're not on to getting political, particularly on these kind of things, but it would be nice to see an even playing field being applied as a genuine thing. Another point from Stuart. Crystal Palace use their stadium for the homeless when it's cold. Has the club thought of this? It's an interesting point. I saw that, I picked that up on Price of Football as well, Stuart. I'm guessing that's where you got it from, that you're not sort of glued to Crystal Palace's news feed on a general basis. So yeah, I think it's something we can raise with the club and discuss. It's an interesting idea. I just want to sort of touch without sort of stealing any thunder from Claire later on. The club has been really sort of quite supportive in sort of actions around things like the the food programs, backing sort of Marcus Rashford's sort of free school meals approach. The club helped us wonderfully by providing a whole host of meals for young people in Beeston. So they are very, very active. I think one of the other things is that we've seen this year a new chief exec of the Leeds United Foundation join, who's got a vast experience in sort of the third sector, in the voluntary sector. So it'd be interesting to see sort of where the foundation goes this year, but I think they're very, very keen to continue to work heavily in supporting the community, and I think so hopefully, yes, we might see initiatives like that, but it's certainly something we can put on the agenda to discuss next time we talk to them, Stuart. Okay. Any more?
I think we go get a cup of tea and then come back for Angus.
Lovely stuff. So if we call a break now, if you want to sort of grab tea, coffees, if you've got any questions in the meantime, if you think of something, by all means, place it into the chat. We'll look to address those sort of throughout the session as we can. If basically you want to grab a tea or coffee, if we aim to be back here for about 11:05, then we should hopefully be looking at having sort of Angus ready then, and we'll be able to sort of set up for the next stages. Okay. Thanks a lot. We'll just sort of close the video for now. But as I said, if you want to carry on with chat, feel free to sort of place things into chat, and we'll pick those up as we go. Just be mindful that you're live.
Got it. No,
right.
It's always worth being reminded of that.
Okay, so just as we're starting to welcome people back from the break, just one more sort of minute and we should be about there. Hopefully, if everybody is sort of back in the room and ready to go, we'll hand over to Angus to offer his thoughts on kind of from the club and the club's view. It's really sort of, first of all, we'd like to extend our thanks from Angus for taking the time, clearly out of a busy schedule, to share some time with us to sort of offer the club's view, and you've obviously stopped mid-journey to be able to do that for us, so we really appreciate you taking that time to do so. So it's 11:05, so we said we'd have everybody back by that point, so I'm going to hand over to Angus now, and kind of allow you to sort of offer your thoughts, if you would, Angus. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thanks, Graham. Morning, everybody, and apologies for the less than salubrious surroundings. I'm on a hard shoulder on the A1, just coming back from the game last night. But really, what I wanted to say was just a big thank you to all of you who are members of the trust. The relationship with the trust continues to be really important for me personally, but also for the board and for the club as a whole. I think when we started 3 years ago, I asked that the trust would become our critical friend. Wouldn't be afraid to tell us when we were going wrong. Wouldn't be afraid to give us constructive feedback, but would always do it in a supporting way, in a way where the interests of the club and the whole of the club and all of its members and of all our constituent groups, supporter groups, were put first. And I think this year has been another year where the trust have demonstrated that. It's been a challenging year. Obviously, we've had huge successes and huge challenges, and in both of those, in victory and disaster, we've treated both those foes the same, and I think we've stood shoulder to shoulder with the trust on all issues. And as usual, we haven't got some things right, and I think the guys of the trust have been quick to point that out. And we always take their feedback on board. We don't always agree with it, but it's great to have that perspective put in a constructive manner. And for those of you who don't know, we have discussions regularly, but we're also all on a WhatsApp group with the committee members, and that gives them the ability on a very direct basis to drop me messages or drop me notes, and I can respond, or I can get the team to respond if we're not doing that quick enough. So for me, you all play a huge important part in what we're trying to do, which is make Leeds great again. From a club perspective, if you take aside the fact that supporters can't come into the stadium, and it I'm sure it's depressing you, but it's depressing me more. It's a really lonely place to be in Ellen Road, watching the games without everybody there, and it's in games like last night where I thought, if we'd have had 34,000 Leeds United fans there, they might have made the difference. And actually, even though we voted for fans to return, knowing that we probably wouldn't have fans in, and Marcelo, said that he thought it would be a competitive disadvantage, I was actually surprised at Chelsea what a disadvantage it is. So, even if we can get 2,000 back, I think it'll make a difference. But aside from that, we've sort of come across our centenary season. We won the league in our centenary season. The guys did it in style. I know we couldn't celebrate it in the way we liked, but I've felt throughout that period that the unity we wanted, the unity between supporters, players, and board has been there. And we always knew that if we could get this club united, then I think I've said before, there was no limit to our ambitions. And I think last season proved that. But no one is resting on their laurels. No one thinks at board level, or Marcelo or the team think that Leeds being in the Premier League is enough. We need to compete in the Premier League, and we need to compete in the top half of the Premier League. What I think we've experienced this year is we've seen some really positive signs. I think we've got players and clearly a manager and a coaching staff who can absolutely compete at the highest level of the Premier League. But we're also learning that it's a very unforgiving place. It's much more clinical, and the type of football we play can be punished much more easily than it can be in the Championship, and the team are having to adapt to that. But even though some of the most recent results haven't gone with us, I think we've shown enough to show that we can stabilise at this level. And then it's really about where do we take it, going forward. And for me, the size and scale of Leeds United, I shouldn't be surprised by it, but I am surprised by it. And I hate it because it's a commercial metric, and it's shouldn't be the sign of how well we're doing. But we've sold 10 times more shirts than we did 3 years ago. We outsell West Ham, we outsell Everton by a multiple on the shirt front. So it shows the scale of the club. And if we can harness that scale and build the club in the way we're doing, we can create the revenues which can ensure that Leeds can establish themselves as a top half Premier League side. And not every club has the permission to do that because they just don't have the fan base where we do. I think we've also got good news in that we know now we're a very investable proposition. I didn't think anybody wanted really to touch the club when Massimo was in charge, and Andrea was very brave in making that transaction happen. We're now in a position where everyone's seeing the trajectory we're on, and I think Leeds is, once again, one of the most investable propositions probably in world football, and that's a great card that we have to play in terms of developing the club and growing it as we go forward. And we've got some great existing partners in the 49ers who wouldn't be surprised if they step up and help us going forward from an investment perspective. And then I think it's around continuing to build our infrastructure. So we we'll be breaking ground on the Park Life scheme, which will be a world-class community sports hub on Fullerton Park, which I think will be, will lead all European clubs in how they can put community facilities onto their stadium site. We are moving forward with moving the academy to Matthew Murray, and we're now doing the ground exploration works on Matthew Murray to accelerate that process. And we've also started the preliminary phase of the stadium, the stadium redevelopment project, looking at both the west and the north stand, and how we can get the stadium up to the 50 to 55 to potentially 60,000 in phases stadium that we need to be ultimately a team which is competing in Europe. So for me, the future's really bright. This season is going to continue to be challenging. I think we need to stay united and the players need our support in the sort of social media sphere more than ever before, because they can't get it in person. And then as you guys start to come back to the game, you know, I want everybody to stay united and not let the processes around getting tickets and attending games becoming divisive amongst the fan base, because I can tell you there is no elegant solution to allocating 2,000 tickets to 34,000 supporters. But we are going to do our best to make it fair, to get as many people in as we can, prioritising season ticket holders, cascading to members when we can get to that point. And I think, you know, hopefully by the end of the season, if the macro health environment continues to improve, we'll be in a position where we can have full crowds this season. And I think we've got a pretty tasty fixture list in April, and certainly from an emotional perspective, I'm really hoping that we get you all back to the ground by then. So that's it for me, really. Just, you know, thank you once again. I think my role today has been partly to be a warm-up man to John Richardson, which is a highlight for my career and probably a highlight for his too. So you'll have something much more entertaining following me. But thanks again. And if you do have any questions or comments, I don't think the forum's today. It might be, but please, you know, put them through to Graham, and normally we're pretty responsive in getting back to him with answers. So thanks again.
Thanks, Angus. We have got just a couple of questions, if you don't mind. If there's
okay,
only
no problem.
if that's okay.
No problem.
So one from Michael Green saying, Angus, can we get a clear commitment that even if Leeds return to its rightful place at the pinnacle of English football, the club will never support proposals that gives unfettered power to a narrow set of clubs?
Absolutely. That is the easiest question I've ever had. We completely agree in the principle of the football pyramid and the ability for clubs to climb and go down the football pyramid, and B, that it is one club per one club, one vote, and every vote's equal. And the fact that clubs have told us that our vote doesn't count as much as theirs because we haven't been in the league long enough, you can imagine infuriates us. And you know, we will never change our position on that, and we'll be resolute, even when which we will be ultimately, when we're back to being one of the top 6 clubs. It still won't change. We believe in a democracy at Premier League level.
Great, no, thank you. And then one more, which was, when do you believe the timescale will be for replacing the West Stand and / North Stand? Are we?
Okay, so it's we're looking at the phasing now, and what we're trying to do is understand how we can not reduce capacities while we're doing the build. And you'll see a number of clubs have done that by building over the top of the existing stand, moving fans upstairs, and then completing the stand below. If you start now and we continue the process at the pace we're doing it, then it's 2.5 to 3 years from now to completion is about the time frame. And obviously it depends on being in the you know, retaining our Premier League status. But it's something we know there's demand for. You know, we put a season, we created the season ticket waiting list. We put a price of £10 on it to ensure that people were serious, and we had 20,000 people sign up in a week. So we've gone from a situation where I think we had, when I started, 15,000 season ticket holders to one where we've got 24,000 season ticket holders and another 20,000 on the waiting list. So a stadium of 50 to 55,000 is eminently doable. It works from a financial perspective, and in the long term, it also helps to because we can change the balance of corporate, of premium and general admission seats. In the long term, it means that that it can keep the price of general admission seats low and suppressed.
Great. I think that's it for now, Angus.
Just before, there is just one question that we've had sort of separately. Appreciate that sort of getting fans into Ellen Road at the current time is the priority, but obviously that begs the question that when things do start to relax, looking at away allocations, and I know this is one of your favourite topics, is away loyalty and allocations around away tickets, Angus. If we're likely to have reduced perhaps allocations in the Premier League, no more than 3,000. That was pretty much standard as the cut-off before, based on loyalty. So kind of in that sense, what do we feel that it's going to be a closed shop, or will the club be looking at different alternatives in terms of around away ticket allocation?
Well, the principle on away tickets has been, we don't want it to be a closed shop. So we want it to be a mix of away season ticket holders, and the away season ticket will continue, of loyalty points, and then giving an opportunity when we can for supporters who don't have loyalty points and haven't followed the club away from them to start to gain loyalty points. To be honest, we haven't done a lot of work into the reduced allocations because it seems a bit of a long way off. It's probably not something we need to worry about this season, but I don't think that mix will change. So it'll be a combination of away season tickets, loyalty points, plus a ballot option for people to start to gain loyalty points if they want to.
Thank you for that, Angus. I think that's pretty much it. So, once again, massive thank you from us for sparing your time. We can allow you to get back on with your journey, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks a lot for taking the time.
Good stuff. Angus. Good to see you all, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
So it's back over to you in that sense then, Pete.
Yep. No, great, and that's great to have Angus join us there. I think that's really great. So I'd like to hand over now to Ben. Ben Shires, our Future Trust President, for the section on with him and John. If that's okay, Ben.
It is. Hello, Pete. I'm glad to see that I was the only one who got the memo about the Christmas attire. So
sorry about that. Yeah.
It's all Leeds, even the hat. So I will be leaving the house proudly today, wearing my festive wear. It's great to see you all. Obviously, for a lot of you, I won't have seen you since our tremendous centenary exhibition of last year, which was absolutely fantastic. So thanks for all of you who supported that, and thanks for everyone who's been supporting the Trust over this very difficult year. I'm going to be interviewing a very special Leeds United fan coming up now. He's one of the most prominent comedy voices in the country. Now, unfortunately, Chris Moyles couldn't make it, but we do have a man who hosts incredible shows. You might know him from Channel Hopping with John Richardson, Meet the Richardsons, John Richardson, Ultimate Warrior, basically anything with his name in. So can I introduce to the Leeds United Supporters Trust, John Richardson AGM, it's John Richardson.
Hello there, thank you. And if any of you are amongst the 7 people who are watching Channel Hopping with John Richardson, then can I just issue a massive thanks straight away. I got my Christmas jumper on.
That's glorious, John.
There we go. Ho ho carajo, it says there. They wouldn't let me wear it on the last leg because it's strobes and it has a swear word in it. But I did try. I tried to get it on Channel 4.
Yeah, always pushing the agenda. That's the great thing about Leeds fans. We need to keep banging that drum. So, John, we just thought we could have a really kind of open chat, I guess, this time around, because it's been a very unusual year. Lots to discuss.
Yes.
But first and foremost, let's start at sort of the beginning of the year and then the promotion push, because as Leeds fans, it was everything that we dreamed of, bar the global pandemic and the ability to not go to any of the games towards the end.
Yeah, well, it's very Leeds, isn't it? The one year that we don't go to shit, everything else goes to shit. So sort of, but on a par, we've sort of averaged out. But it's been wonderful. What a year it's been. I thought I brought my football in just so that I could win a header, because I thought Leeds United fans might have not seen that happen for a couple of days.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, that wasn't from a set piece, otherwise you'd have got nowhere near it. But yeah,
it's actually I've got my daughter whipping in crosses from the corner of the pub there, so we're training her up to, again, not take short corners and then pass them back to.
Yeah, perhaps we could use your nous at some set pieces, John. But it has been a tumultuous year for all sorts of reasons. If we just focus on that promotion, sort of the end of the promotion campaign, the celebrations around it, obviously there was a frustration for the fans at not being able to celebrate in the way that we would have liked. Do you feel that we've had some catharsis despite that in terms of getting it out of our system, being able to enjoy it?
I think broadly, it's you just have to treat it more sort of like a tantric thing that you enjoy a little bit for a long time, rather than one explosive orgasm. It's been a sort of gentle tickling throughout the year, and it's just it is. People have lost worse things than us being in the stadium. It does feel a bit of a shame, especially given that the narrative has been so perfect, that it's been Bielsa and the way we've played and the way we've done it without spending a lot of money. As it has been special, but I know I'll remember it for the rest of my life anyway, in or out of the stadium. So, yeah.
Have you done anything? Obviously, I can see you've got your jump on with Bielsa. Have you done anything sort of to commemorate it in perhaps a permanent? Have you put any artwork up? I mean, dare I say, have you got a tattoo or anything like that?
I do. I really want a tattoo, but I only want one if nobody knows I've got it. It's a little private joke for me, because secretly I know how pathetic I am. So if I did have a tattoo, I wouldn't show you it, but I haven't got one. I have, Angus will be pleased to know I'm trying to put money in. So when they put up for sale pieces of the net from our championship winning season for £100 a pop, being someone who has the opportunity, I thought that's the sort of thing I should have, and I'm staring at it now. It's in a lovely presentation case, and I've got just about every mug going with the word champions on it. So, there's plenty knocking about. I've indoctrinated. It's good for my daughter to see success, convince her to be a Leeds United fan. So I've done what I can.
Absolutely. And as Leeds fans, we've spent 16 years in the wilderness. We've heard all the jokes, all the ribaldry over those years. Have you noticed things change between sort of when you've been going on TV shows, meeting other comedians, other football supporters? How has the atmosphere shifted?
We're broadly liked now. I'm not sure whether that's a good thing or not. It's nice to, I sort of quite enjoy being the one who gets the you're in my circle, you're the Leeds fan, so if something good or bad happens, then your phone goes bananas, whatever. So I've quite enjoyed that, to be honest. And of the shows I do in the comics, I guess I work with Matt Ford a lot, who's a Nottingham Forest fan, so he's keeping his mouth firmly shut at the moment. That's a delight to watch. And I did last week with Josh Widdicombe, who is a Plymouth Argyle fan, so again, he hasn't got a great deal to say on Leeds United. Alex Brooker is a very generous. Alex Brooker, in fairness to him, opened with, "How did you not beat Arsenal the other day?" Which I had to agree with. So yeah, there's people talking, and I'd just Bielsa himself being one of the top 3 managers in the world at Leeds United. What a time to be alive! We're so lucky.
I know, it really is quite the treat, isn't it? Particularly when I know people keep bringing up the very short-sighted forecasts from certain English managers. Steve Evans, our former manager, being a prime exponent of the anti-Bielsa brigade when he first joined.
I was at Steve Evans' first game when he was unveiled as well. The sight of seeing him walk across the pitch was just magic. I couldn't work out how far away he was. Just physically, I thought he must be about 2 miles away, because nobody's that shape from here.
He was an optical illusion of a manager, wasn't he? And that was the tactics as well as the shape.
And also, at the time we're in now, where you've just seen with Angus everything you need to know about Angus. He's a man who takes the A1 rather than the M1. He knows the M1's a quicker journey, but it's less pleasant. That's how well the club is run now. So the sort of Evans Chileno madness, that was the sort of opposite, and it was almost a relief. Then the club was so badly run, you could almost relax a bit and just say, well, this is as shit as it's ever going to be. We have a lunatic in charge who's hiring people that have no right managing our club. So, it feels like that should be it should take 30 years ago to turn that situation around, not like 2 or 3.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess that goes to a deeper point about the salvation of being a Leeds fan in this last very weird year, is that we've taken such a pummeling, not just from fans of other clubs, but from within as well, from the terrible signings, the relegations, point deductions, fines, and just I remember a time when the season kicked off and we had Toledo in charge, and there was a story circulating about there had been so many budget cuts that players had to do their own washing, they had to wash their own kit. And I thought, you can't get much lower than that, really. So anything is just a bonus.
Yeah, you can laugh at. There was a sort of serious. There's a tragedy to some of the players we lost. It's that young squad coming through, like Lewis Cook and Byram. You can't begrudge any of them leaving. I don't doubt there's a lot of fans who left then. But when you've been on a sort of serious note, when you've been through that, and what I have learned from the last sort of 10 years is, if you're going to get, I know there's been some awful times and awful results, but broadly, more than any other club, the supporters trust and the work the supporters do in general. We've seen this year the money that they've raised for food banks and things, Leeds United fans. You could be proud of being a Leeds fan, whatever sort of league we're in, and as long as you're going to games and you're able to have a pint, and I think that's what's fascinating now. I've had a better time going to games in League One where we've lost and then I've got drunk afterwards than watching games on my own in the Premier League. In a set we can't even have a mate round to your house to watch it. It's been a real sort of revelation of what the important things about football are, and really it's nice to play nice football, but it would be nice to get back, wouldn't it, and watch it.
Absolutely. I think we're all missing that camaraderie and that feeling of shared emotion. I think coming together in Elland Road is a quasi-religious experience, really, isn't it? It's that sort of in the cathedral together, we win together, we lose together. And when you don't have that, you don't have the outlet. And I mean, it's interesting. I was going to ask you on your thoughts on what it's like being in the Premier League now, because it's what we've craved for so long. Is it everything that you'd hoped, minus the fact that we can actually not see the team?
Yeah, I'm not going to begrudge it, because it's obviously the thing that you've been working towards. You can't be in the Championship and not want to be in the Premier League. But equally, it's a different Premier League to what it was when I sort of became a fan in the early 90s. It's not, the technology is not as good. The money that other clubs have, you can see, a game like last night, you see just the act of being in the Premier League. West Ham are not a great team, but just the act of being in the Premier League makes you so much money that every couple of years you add the quality of play that we haven't been able to for the last 10 years. So it's going to take us, I'd say, 3 or 4 years, adding a couple of players each year, provided we stay up, to get to that broad level where, look at the Everton squad now and you think, how's that happened? How have you got James Rodriguez in your squad? And it's just because the Premier League is just a check every year. And once we get to that level where we've got that squad and we're competing the way we should. But, this squad now, as much as I'd love to buy, world-class players every week, I'm going to really miss some of these players when they're not in the squad anymore. And some of them you have to sort of say are working very hard at the moment, but could perhaps be replaced. But I don't want any of them to go. I want honorary roles for all of them. I want them all just dotted around the pitch at every game. I don't ever want to not have an Alioski moment in my week.
Yeah, absolutely. He should be sort of a roving reporter on the side of the pitch, if nothing else. Just
absolutely. Get a T-shirt cannon. Something like that. Something where there's a risk he could actually take out a fan, do some real damage.
And he's live streaming everything as he does it.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I think there's a sort of a payoff to being in the Premier League, isn't it? Once you reach the sunlit uplands, if you like, it's not just the team that you play, it's the years that they've been in the Premier League and what that does to your side financially and structurally and infrastructurally that we haven't benefited from. So when we draw with Arsenal, actually we're drawing with a team who've never dropped out of the Premier League, who've had billions of investment and have had the security to be able to build on every year's success. We just
have hated it. Arsenal fans have hated almost every year since that invincible season. They might as well have just all retired. That should have been their pension. Just pay off. Don't go to football anymore. You're never going to like it again. So I'd still take our journey. I'd still take the appreciation for what football means and what it is to like your club and like your players and like the way it's run, because it just looks miserable being a fan of it. If you expect to win the Premier League every year, you're not going to. Only one team's going to win it. So, I love watching them. I was listening to the Square Ball podcast where they had the Arsenal fan zone. What a delight to listen to other fans going barmy. It just makes you realise the whole game is insane. How would we have got through this year without something that doesn't matter to get more angry about than things that really do matter?
Yeah, exactly. But it comes with being an Arsenal fan, a sense of jilted entitlement that'll always leave you disappointed. You can't even win a game and enjoy it now.
What have they won, like 5 FA Cups in the last 3 years or something? And they talk about it as if they're just part-timers on like a ruined pitch.
I know. But it's great to speak to you, John. And we've had a searing question in from Michael Green, who says, non-Leeds United question, John, how was it living in Surbiton?
It was great. I mean, Surbiton's everything about me. It sort of pertains to be London, but it's not really. It's a sort of quiet suburb outside where not a lot happens. I loved it. I have a nice little, no one bothered me. Surbiton's the sort of place where people are too posh to admit they've got a telly, and certainly too posh to admit that they watch the shit that I recognised a lot, because people would never want to admit that they watch Channel 4 after 9 p.m.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great. I miss it. But I prefer being up here. Yorkshire is better. And thanks for the insightful question, and thanks for having me. Frankly, I'm like dog shit at the moment. I seem to be everywhere, and I apologise to anybody who's watching. So thank you for inviting me, and I apologise that I think I'm on ITV at the moment eating a roasted butternut squash cooked by...
Oh. John, are you still there? Hello?
I think we might have lost John's feed. I think he might have stopped.
Very 2020.
Just when he was about to tell us who'd cooked his roasted butternut squash as well.
James
John,
Martin.
Go. Have I gone? I've paired with my phone now because my internet's breaking down.
There we go. Well, that's your Hebden Bridge internet for you.
No, absolutely. Who'd have thought living in a valley in shit weather would have an effect on your internet? Madness.
But yeah, well, you were just about to tell us who your roasted butternut squash was cooked by, so don't leave us on a
Oh, what an awful point to cut out. I was trying to look sort of self-effacing, and now it looks like I've prick teased you with.
Yeah.
It was. It's James Martin.
Oh,
who,
of course.
Yeah, and I have to say, I hate butternut squash, and he put pomegranates in. So tune over to ITV now to see what a good actor I am. And really, the thought of fruit inside the sweetest vegetable as a savoury main course didn't make me feel sick.
Horrible. Maybe just James Martin doesn't like you. Is he a Man U fan?
I think he's probably a rugby fan.
Oh dear.
Those bigger boys.
Well, thanks for tuning over the fact with us, John. And it's been great to catch up with you. Hope you have a brilliant Christmas. Let's keep our fingers crossed for a win. Well,
yes.
Any win, but particularly one on the 20th, eh?
Yeah, that would be very nice. That would make Christmas, wouldn't it?
Fantastic.
See you all at Ellen Road.
Yeah, enjoy it.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, thanks to John Richardson there. Brilliant to hear from him. Flying the flag high for Leeds United on the telly, all over the telly, in fact. I'm going to hand over to Pete and Graham again now. It's great to see you all. And, well, from me and from my Dickensian study, I wish you all a happy Christmas.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you very much, Ben. I was sort of wondering that we've probably just witnessed the first time travel interview from the 1920s through to the Dog and Bastard with John Richardson. So that's quite a unique sort of process. So thank you very much to both of you for doing that. The next thing that we're going to talk about on here is some of the work that we've done with our charity partners over the last 12 months. So we've got a couple of pieces here that we're going to talk about. And we're going to start with Leeds Food Bank. So I'm just going to ask Claire just to sort of come on for us and talk about the food banks, and then we'll be able to sort of go from there. So Claire, if you're able to join us.
Yeah. Morning, everybody. I'm Claire. I'm the board member that looks after community and the Future Trust. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on the food banks. I'm sure many of you have heard and probably donated, but we launched them back in 2018, and this was under the umbrella of Leeds Fans Food Banks, which supports two of the major food banks in the city, Leeds Northwest and Leeds Southeast, which reaches thousands of families across the city. Originally, this was just really set up for fans to come and be able to donate food donations on match days. And we just saw the initiative grow and grow, and we got inundated with people wanting to donate that couldn't make matches. So we set up a Just Giving page that enabled donations. As of August 2020, we'd raised around £35,000. This mainly was from things like fundraising. We did the walk from Leeds to Huddersfield ahead of the game last year. The amazing Football Manager marathon that the Square Ball team did. And then obviously COVID came and hit us. Games moved, the stopped, they went behind closed doors. That just put a halt to being able to collect food donations at probably one of the most critical times. We've seen many people, including our own fans, start to struggle, whether that's financially through going on furlough or just not having any income at all. So they were going to one of our food banks, which we're going to hear a bit more about in a minute. So while we were stuck on our sofas, we then moved to live football on TV. And one of the things we did was campaign with other trusts to push for broadcasters to show all the live games. And then we saw the £14.95 pay-per-view charge for selected games, which obviously we put out our disappointment on, and worked with many other trusts to kind of get that taken away, which we were successful in. However, the Newcastle Supporters Trust launched the charity Not Pay-Per-View campaign, where they asked the fans to donate to the food bank, and obviously we immediately followed suit. Just the response from Leeds fans, as you can imagine, was immense. Currently around £60,000 donated in that period, which was the most raised for that campaign by any other group of fans. And there's probably a bit of competition on the other trust channels saying how much they've raised, but they didn't raise that amount just for pay-per-view. So as a trust, that is something we're really incredibly proud of. The food bank total now stands at 99,000. We are £500 off hitting £100,000 in 2 years, and that's just an absolute incredible achievement. So hopefully we can get that done by Christmas. Only last week, we also had a really incredible donation from our friends over at Luscos in Scandinavia. They donated over £4,000 to it, as well as I think another Leeds charity. So on behalf of the board members here, I think I'd just like to extend a massive thank you to the guys at the food bank, mainly Trish, Karen, Wendy, Rob, Gib and Amy. They're also our regular collectors down at Ellen Road, and they are stood outside in all weathers, freezing in winter and then getting the nice sun, obviously, throughout the summer. We've got Nat joining us today, who is the development manager for Leeds South and East Food Bank. She just wants to chat us through what the fundraising impact is and what this means to them. So I'm going to hand over to you, Nat.
Thank you. Hi, good morning, everybody. So yes, my name's Nat, and I started at the food bank about 18 months ago as the development manager. So I work alongside Wendy at Leeds South and East Food Bank. So I'll be speaking on behalf of our food bank this morning. And just to say a massive thank you to everybody that has helped us to fundraise over the last couple of years, and especially during such a tough time as the pandemic. And when the pay-per-view scandal hit, of course, that enabled us bizarrely to raise more funds for our food bank and to help our clients in need. I wanted to talk to you really and just sort of give you an insight really as to what we do and how your money can help us to thrive and survive really. So yes, the food bank started in 2012, and then as Claire said, the relationship with Leeds United has been growing since 2018. And since the pandemic hit, we've fed a lot of people in South and East Leeds. We've fed about 7,000 people all in all, and that includes more than 3,000 children. So it's massive, you know, and we're, in all honesty, we're quite horrified that people are living in food poverty, and where we step in is to help them not only to access good and healthy food, but then to help them out of their situation, to help them out of their crisis by offering support, advice, etc., to hopefully, you know, lift their financial crisis. I wanted to just sort of share a couple of the stories of the people that are coming our way at the moment. We've seen quite a shift, especially due to the pandemic. as to the sorts of client groups that are coming through our doors now. In particular, it's people that have been newly made redundant because of the pandemic, or they're on furlough, and it means that they're on a low income, and that low income just doesn't stretch in order for them to meet their basic needs. And so we step in to help them to buy food, etc., to support them with food parcels, to access other services that can help them with their situation. The pandemic has sort of shown us really the gaps where people were just about managing before March of this year, and then sadly the pandemic has tipped them into poverty. So like I say, they were already on the precipice, and then the pandemic tipped them into that. So for instance, we supported a family last week who, the lady, she was working, as was her husband, but sadly, they were furloughed, and it just meant that they couldn't support themselves and their family throughout that time. And so, yes, we gave them long-term support throughout the last 6 months until they got back on their feet. And it's fundraising like what your supporters do for us that enables us to be able to have those food stores, to be able to have the infrastructure in place that means that we can reach more people. When we have such a, it's such a substantial amount. Gosh, we cannot believe. It is amazing that you have fundraised so much for us. Claire's just surprised me now. I thought that you'd raised sort of, £90,000, and then Claire's just suddenly announced that you're not far off 100,000. So we'd worked out actually what that £90,000 would do, and of course it will be split between the two food banks, so Leeds South and East and Leeds North and West. And I'd worked out that sort of £45,000 is the equivalent of 36,000 meals that we can spread across the south and east of the city, and Leeds North and West would do the same. What it also enables us to do is actually to grow and secure our infrastructure, so that we've got that strength behind us, so that we have a warehouse space, we have that infrastructure where we can store the food safely, where the staff can work from, where the volunteers can do their volunteer service from as well. And we are using some of those funds to grow the warehouse, for us to be able to have that secure warehouse space. One of the other ways in which we are going to use the funding is that we're going to use it to create training schemes for our volunteers and also others that have been made unemployed by the pandemic. So we're going to create a long-term training scheme so that we can train people in warehouse management, etc., and then get them back into the workplace. So again, without your funding, we wouldn't be able to do that. So it's amazing how together, we've been able to to grow and develop. So yeah, a massive, massive thank you. We are absolutely, chuffed to bits. My colleague Wendy, as Claire said, she's out in all weathers, fundraising and raising awareness outside the football grounds. I've joined on occasion, and we've just wrapped up warm and engaged with your supporters, etc. And it's just amazing. You're helping some of the most vulnerable people that we have in the city, who live in some of the most deprived parts of the city. And especially as winter comes, to be able to give those people a bit of Christmas cheer to get them through these very, very tough months. Yeah, it's just fantastic. Thank you. You're our, we couldn't do it without you. You're our lifeblood. So.
Oh, thanks, Nat. That's really good to hear from you, and to get that background about where the funds and how we're making an impact. Thanks for coming on, and thanks very much for your time. It's really appreciated. So we'll hand back over to Graham.
Thank you very much, Claire. Thank you very much, Nat. Lovely to sort of hear, Nat sharing that sort of more information about kind of what we've been able to help the Leeds Food Banks do over the last sort of couple of years, but specifically, I think last year, where there's been, a huge push. It's worth pointing out that obviously we've had this sort of 2-year association with the Leeds Food Banks, from helping them establish down at Ellen Road to continuing to fund them, to using things like the pay-per-view boycott to, really boost the available funds for them to do the great work that they do. But this year, our charity of the year and our charity partnership was actually with Andy's Man Club. So I'm going to ask now just to sort of join us. We've got Paul, who's from Andy's Man Club, and Paul will be able to just sort of help us by just telling us a little bit about the work that Andy's Man Club does locally, nationally, and kind of what the situation looks like at the present time. So over to you, Paul. Thanks for joining us.
Morning. Thank you for having us as your charity of the year this year. Pre-lockdown, Leeds AMC, we reached up just short of 100 men coming through the door at the College of Building. And we would have been the first national club to reach 100 on a Monday night, which had been an achievement in Leeds and just proves how much it is needed in Leeds at the time. We're currently back face to face. We come away from a central home at the Leeds College of Building, and we're running a site at Milford Sports Club and East Leeds Rugby Club, just to get guys back talking in a safe and honest environment where they're not judged, and just get the stress of day-to-day life and any issues that have raised around lockdown off the chest, and to support them. We're not professionals, we're just guys that have been in the same boat, had same life experiences, and can offer a safe ear to sort of just give advice and take advice yourself from it. We currently hoping to get one in the north and south of Leeds to get all areas of Leeds covered, easy accessible as well for guys that might not drive, want to just nip out for a walk and not sort of open up to the partners about where they're going just yet. AMC's changed so many lives in Leeds for men that wouldn't talk, couldn't talk, felt ashamed to talk. And me, for one, I opened up about childhood traumas that happened when I was younger to a group of 15 guys that I'd never really met. I'd known for about 8 weeks, and it really saved me. But AMC as a whole is going places. We're opening up and down the country, left, right and centre. There's positions coming available within the trust for guys to step up as from volunteers to sort of employees of the charity to go work for them. And the support that you provide in a place where it's a male influenced sort of support base, where guys can see his name out there, the warm-up tops against Huddersfield, the pictures we got from that have done great. It is unbelievable just the support we get. I never thought I'd talk. It changed me as a person, as a whole. In July this year, I run from Huddersfield to Leeds. I used the Huddersfield connection with yourselves, again, to raise money for the club. I raised £1,300 by running. I'm a chubby lad that runs. I don't really run far. I push myself, and I've found out that it helps. So that's pushed me on for my next challenge in April, for my run for MND and Rob Burrows, that I wouldn't achieve that AMC. And just to have the mindset and get my guys talking is unbelievable. So if you think anyone is struggling at the moment, just ask the question, are you okay? But then sometimes go a bit further than okay. Is the family all right? Have you had a good weekend? And if they're struggling, just sort of say, have you looked at Andy's Man Club, and try and get them talking. It does work. It has saved numerous men at the Leeds group. I've been out on a night to guys that are struggling. We've had phone calls 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I need someone to talk to. As a facilitator, it's more than a Monday night for some of us. We go out and help these guys that are in absolute states, and just to be there as a support network where we're not professionals, but we can signpost them to that and not worry anymore about what they're going to do, because we know they've got the right help at the right time. So I'd just like to thank you again for your support over the last 12 months.
So, Paul, thank you for that. That's really, really good. I'm just going to sort of ask you the question because look, I've attended Andy's Man Club and I know kind of how incredible it is as a safe space for men to be able to sort of talk and just open up and unload some of the burden that they may be carrying at that time. But it goes wider than that, doesn't it? Because ultimately, whilst it's only for men, and so we're talking about the male audience in football, it's the impact it has on other people, on people's lives and their families. So it's wider than just the men that get helped, in effect.
Yeah, it's the whole family that sort of gets the support, because there's guys like me. I attended after my marriage broke down, but I couldn't speak to my wife at the time about the problems I had because I didn't think she'd understand. But we've had guys that have come in and gone, suffering because of this. 6 months later, like, yeah, my marriage is back on track. We're having a baby. We look into the future. We've booked holidays. So it doesn't just help men. It helps the entire family, from the children to the wives, even to the work lives that improve through coming to AMC and opening up about the struggles of life.
Thank you. Look, as I said, thank you very much for coming on and talking today about Andy's Man Club, Paul. It's great to see that as an organisation and as a charity, it's thriving and growing, and it's helping so many people, not just across Leeds, but across the country, making that sort of difference. And as you say, with the phone calls that you guys as facilitators make at, kind of random times of the day just to intervene and help, it's genuinely preventing male suicide, which is just phenomenally powerful work. So, well done to everybody at Andy's Man Club. But, we've been proud to be partnered with you this year. So thank you very much for sharing your time this morning.
Thanks for your support again. Cheers, Graham.
Lovely stuff. Thanks, Paul. So just kind of moving on from there, I'm going to hand back over to Claire and let Claire just sort of talk us through kind of, because we're getting to the end of 2020, it's time to start looking at 2021 and potential charity partners for next year. So I'm going to hand over to Claire, who can then basically just sort of talk us through how we're looking at doing that this year. So.
Thanks, Graham. So basically we've just heard from Andy's Man Club, and as we go into 2021, it's time to start looking for a new charity partner that we can support. I think it's really important that we want to support something where we can make a really big impact, but it's really down to getting in nominations and finding out what's important to you as members as well. So we're opening up the invitation for you to come forward and nominate your charity of the year. It'd be great. You just email in to us. We'll share an address around in the minutes. But with just a bit of a brief description of why it'd be important for us to support as a trust and fans and what benefit it'll have to the city. So if we could get those in by next Friday, that would be amazing. Then the board will review them and kind of get to a top three, and then we'll invite the top three charities that have been chosen to come and give us a brief kind of interview around what benefits and what they'd use the funds if we raised could do. I mean, it's important things like Andy's Man Club hasn't been about fundraising. They've wanted the awareness. So it's understanding what the needs are of each charity. So once we get to the top three, we've picked them, we'll come back to the members with a brief synopsis of the top three and give you ultimate vote on which one we decide to go with for next year. Then we'll start to pull together a bit of a plan around what we can do to support. It's just been such a difficult year trying to do events and fundraising, but obviously with the online fundraising, we've just smashed it this year in terms of donations for the food bank, but as well just moving on and seeing what other groups we can help. The food banks will still continue to be a place at Ellen Road for donations, but what else can we do as a fan base to really give back to the community? I think that's something we're all incredibly excited about doing this coming year, and it's great to be part of it. So yeah, nominations by next Friday, please. Is it Jay?
Thank you very much, Claire, for picking that up. So I'll just take you off so that you're not sort of stood front and center again anymore. Thank you for that. Just sort of basically looking to almost bring things to a close really for today. We've got a couple more bits to pieces to do. Just first of all, I'd like to sort of open up the floor. If anybody has any other business that they particularly like to raise at the AGM, the chat function is open for you. So obviously just pop something in there if there's anything else that we'd like to look at. I'm noting that we've had like the question, a couple of questions in there that we've sort of said we'll take offline. So around about sort of the club's social media sort of growth, we'll find out an answer for you and we'll put that back out on a wider piece. But if anybody's got any other sort of a business that they wish to raise at this stage, please feel free to do so. We'll pick that up now, or we'll agree to basically take that away and cover that back with you offline if we can't answer that for you today. So we'll just give a brief moment for people to put something into the chat if that's what they want to do. And then we'll look to close sort of the AGM and get Pete to do that. So just a moment to see if there's anything coming through. I'm not seeing anything coming through. Just on a personal level, to sort of echo something that Claire shared as part of the food banks piece, I can see that we've got Anders from Luskos who's joined us this morning as an attendee and as a trust member. Just a huge sort of, thank you to the continued support that our Scandinavian sort of supporters continue to give to the club, to the city, around kind of things like the food banks. I mean, not only did they donate, kind of a huge amount to the food banks, but they basically gave the same amount then to Simon on the Streets, which is a Leeds-based homeless charity. These are people who live in an entirely different country, to us, and yet they are supporting our local communities and our local charities. Now that for me is, if you want to talk about definition of, what makes people Leeds, and we talk about being together we're stronger, and together we're Leeds. These guys are, kind of hundreds of miles away, and yet absolutely together we're Leeds. So thank you, Anders. Thank you to all of your members at Luskos for your continued support in that way. One other final question that was raised that I just wanted to touch on was basically just, one second while I just quickly re-find it, was... it was basically a question from Robert, who is over in Scandinavia himself, and it was around about basically the ideas of the murals. So we touched on murals and the fact that there's the Pablo. Obviously, there's loads of murals starting to come up in Leeds, and we're going to be part of, making sure that there is, lots and lots of Leeds United related artwork across the city, from suburban areas like Pudsey through to the city centre itself. We are planning on creating an interactive map that will be available via the web that will give geolocations so people can find it. For anybody coming to the city, it will be, a guide for them to be able to find the different murals, go and see them, find out a little bit more about, kind of how they came about, who painted them, what's the story behind them, so that we can make sure that, once again, we're not only bringing the community and the city back together with the football club, but all of the fans from all over the world, can have that sort of opportunity to, when they're visiting Leeds, reconnect with that connection again. So I'm going to hand back over to Pete because I don't think we've had any. Hang on, we have some more businesses. So hang on a second. Any more information? Nothing basically done that. Thank you to Rob for your comments about the work that kind of Lust is doing. We're proud to be working on your behalves and do that. But I'm going to hand over now to Pete as the chair to close the AGM for the year and enable him to just sort of pick up and finalise the AGM.
No, listen, thanks ever so much for everybody that's attended today. Just reflecting on Paul and Nat's speeches in particular is extremely powerful, and I think it's something that, as a member of the trust, you can be immensely proud that your membership is enabling us to help other groups in the city, and almost at 100k. Hearing from Paul there about what we've helped bring further awareness on Andy's Man's Club. As I mentioned before, I'm immensely proud to be part of the trust. I'm immensely proud to be part of the board. These guys and girls that are on the board, as I said before, are volunteers. It's on top of day jobs. It's on top of being a normal fan, and I can tell you they work bloody hard to do all this kind of stuff. And I really want us to grow that membership base upwards to be extremely strong, and the more that we have, the more that we can do. So please, I urge you all as members and ambassadors for the trust, please keep pushing. Please keep us growing. Please keep holding us to account. But I'm immensely proud of what we've done this year. I'm really looking forward to Jill and Dan coming on officially as board members. I'd like to thank James. I'd like to thank Jip for their works. Jip's going to take a little, hopefully a sabbatical for a couple of months and then come back in. But we're gearing up for a good 2021. So please keep supporting us. As you can see, your £10 a year goes to great places. It enables us to do great things. And I really hope you enjoyed the AGM. Real big thanks to all of the guys on the trust board that arranged everything. Thanks to the speakers, Angus, John, Paul, Nat, Ben, etc. And I wish you all a really very Merry Christmas. So thank you very much from all of us here at the Trust. Cheers, Graham.
Thank you very much for that, Pete. Just as a final thing, Paul from AMC has just added in, or he's going to just say, if you want to basically help and support his progress for MD and for motor neuron disease for Rob Burrows, please follow Chubby Lad That Runs on Facebook. We'll also basically make sure that that gets into the minutes as well, so that you can look at that and reference that online. Thank you to everybody for getting involved, for doing that. Thank you for everybody that's spoken today, and thank you to you all for joining and for being members of the trust. I really hope that all of you can continue to support the trust on every level, and we look forward to working with you and representing you this year again. So thank you from me as well. So I think that pretty much concludes the trust. So feel free to sort of log out, to finish the call, to leave when you're done. If you have any particular questions, feel free to sort of drop them in the chat. We'll try and pick them up offline and make sure they're answered. But that concludes the AGM for 2020. Let's look forward to hopefully an even better 2021.
Thanks, everyone.